Hello and welcome. This podcast review is on Laws of Entertainment, an iTunes podcast by Lisa Bonner. Lisa Bonner is an entertainment law veteran with experience in emerging media, music, and film. She has 19 years of experience in the music industry and is a graduate of New York law. She has experience both in tech startups, intellectual property, as well as negotiating and deal making within the music industry, and currently works as a professor at UCLA Extension School. Below is a link to her podcast. In this particular episode, she decides that she wants to interview Juliette Jones. Juliette Jones is the current EVP, or Executive Vice President of Urban Promotions at Atlantic Records. She began her career as an intern at WBLS, an urban AC, a formatted radio station in New York City, which is also Market One. At the same time, she worked in street promotions for Funkmaster Flex and his promotional company, as well as beginning her official career with a salary at Arista or Jive Records. She worked at Jive for over 8 years, moved from Jive to RCA, and eventually moved from Warner to Atlantic. A good question to ask is, what is urban AC? So let's chalk up urban to being music for 18 to 34-year-old people. Urban radio includes gospel, rhythmic, R&B music, rap music, and dance music. Urban AC is a slightly older population, more female-oriented, and includes artists like Jill Scott. So when we think about Juliette Jones and her artists, we could chalk it up to, say, R. Kelly, to New Edition, as well as some more contemporary artists like Big Sean. What are the legal liabilities of the music industry, or rather radio promotions? It's pretty tricky when you work in radio promotions because the commercial radio industry as well as the recording industry share a symbiotic relationship. In order for radio stations to be lucrative, have the correct market share, and do well within their targeted geographic market, they need to provide valuable entertainment to their listeners. That is part of the programming, that is part of the personalities, but a big part of that is the music that they play, which is considered entertainment. In order for the commercial or for the radio station to be able to lease spots to advertisers, they need to do well, and the only way to do that is to play the music that people want to hear. So radio really has an interest in the recording industry, and the recording industry has an interest in commercial radio because it still remains the number one place for people to listen to artists and find new artists in order to break new artists and book shows in their cities. And so there's mutual benefit for both parties when they're dealing with promotions. The problem comes into the legal implications of such large businesses dealing with dealing with the FCC, because at the end of the day, we still have to remember that radio stations still serve a public function, especially in times of emergencies. So the first thing that Juliette Jones describes is that PAOLA does not exist in the music industry anymore. It is illegal for radio stations to take money directly from record companies. So while she is responsible for flyaways, promotions, brand sponsorships, artist sponsorships, which are the new thing, right? Artists sponsoring radio stations, which or working with independent promotional companies, they cannot hand checks. They cannot exchange anything for airplay. I have a picture here of Alan Freed, the savior or martyr of PAOLA, and she does describe this in that the details of her work. She can make phone calls, she can promote artists, she can push for artists, but she cannot pay artists. And what you say and how you disclose it, all radio station promotions have to disclose. Epic Records has provided this promotional flyaway to Coachella. If it's not available, there is a risk of legal liability on both ends. it's pretty interesting and invaluable in that sense. Um, we're talking about all kinds of, you know, record labels being forced to pay for middlemen or having to figure out ways to discuss local promotion without directly giving things in, as opposed to tit for tat. And at the end of the day, we're still talking about performance rights organizations because artists should be paid for those for that airplay, and it is a very interesting web that we have to navigate. Um, a very interesting point that she described as well was sexual harassment. One of the bigger lawsuits being Penny Muck and Mark Babideau in the 90s at Geffen Records. It resulted in Mark Babideau being removed from his position at Geffen Records and brought on as a consultant. Ultimately, you will, in the music industry, find a lot of men in the room, so it's important to stand strong and try and navigate the industry without having to bring on legal lawsuits, because it did affect inevitably Penny Muck's music career. She did leave the music industry less than 5 years after the lawsuit and is currently working in real estate. So that's something to keep in mind. Overall, it's very important to learn from the experience of other people, especially in terms of the music industry, because this information is proprietary. We're not going to get the chance to listen to promotional executives discussing the liabilities and risks within their industry, as well as the possibility and future of the industry. From a personal aspect, they're talking as friends, so it's very intimate, it's very casual, and it's well worth the 35 minutes of listening. Again, this podcast is available on iTunes, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.